Okay, so you know how we tend to think of our brain, that it just kind of grows up with us and then eventually gets old? Well, what if I told you that's not even close to the real story? Your brain doesn't just age, it actually lives through 5 completely distinct lives, and each one has its own set of rules. I mean, really think about it for a second. The person you are today, doesn't it feel like you operate on a totally different wavelength than the you from 10, maybe 20 years ago? It's a weird feeling, right? Like looking back at a stranger.
Well, guess what? That feeling is absolutely spot on. Neuroscientists are now saying, yep, you aren't the same person, because the research shows our brains don't just change gradually. They go through these massive fundamental shifts in their actual wiring, moving from one distinct era to the next.
So, what does this wild journey look like? Let's pull up the official roadmap. This is all based on a huge landmark study from the University of Cambridge that actually mapped out the brain's entire lifespan.
Okay, here they are, the 5 great epochs of your brain. And right off the bat, something probably jumps out at you. Look at adolescence. It goes all the way to age 32. That totally rewrites our cultural script for when adulthood supposedly begins. And what science calls your prime adulthood, that doesn't even really get going until you're in your early 30s. Each stage is a whole different brain.
All right, let's dig into those first 2 phases. This is the time when your brain is basically a brand new computer being built and programmed, almost completely by the outside world. It's just taking it all in. The technical term for this is input-driven cognition, which is really just a fancy way of saying the brain's main job is to react. It's focused on absorbing the constant flood of information from the world, all the sights, the sounds, the experiences. It's all about learning from the outside in. So, let's imagine cognition is like a ladder. In these early years, the brain is working hard on those bottom 2 rungs. First, raw sensation, just taking in light and sound. And second, perception, learning to organize all that raw data into meaningful things, like recognizing a face or a toy. Now, the switch from childhood to that long adolescence is huge. From 0 to 9, the brain is a pure data sponge. But then, as you move into your teens and 20s, these powerful, new emotional and intuitive filters come online. The brain isn't just absorbing anymore, it's starting to ask, how do I feel about this data? It's using everything it learned to start building an identity. Okay, now for the next big leap, adulthood, kicking in around age 32. This is where everything flips. Your brain shifts from mostly reacting to the world to actually generating its own reality from the inside out. Remember our cognitive ladder? Well, the adult brain is now living at the top. It's running the show with complex intuition, those gut feelings based on years of experience, and high-level abstract reasoning. The focus is no longer on what's happening right now, but on what you already know. This is called internally generative cognition. It means your adult brain spends most of its time just thinking. It's running simulations, playing with memories, and connecting ideas from its own massive internal library, instead of constantly needing new information from the outside. And this chart just blows my mind. Look at that. In your adult prime, a whopping 70% of what's driving your thinking is coming from inside your own head. Only about 30% is coming from the outside world. You're literally living in a world built from your own memories and models. And finally, let's explore those last 2 epochs, which start around age 66. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a story about decline. It's something far more fascinating, a great rewiring, where the brain makes a radical shift in its strategy. This is so key. We have to stop thinking about brain aging as things just breaking. The brain is actively restructuring itself. Those long-range connections that link distant parts of the brain start to fade, and instead it strengthens local specialized processing hubs. It's like a global corporation deciding to empower its local branches. So what does that look like on our cognitive ladder? Well, it's actually a pretty graceful journey back down. The brain starts to rely more on what it can directly see and hear, those foundational rungs of perception and sensation. And just look at this. The ratio completely flips on its head. The brain becomes primarily input-driven all over again. 65% of its processing is now dedicated to what's happening in the outside world. It becomes more present, more reactive. In a way, it's come full circle, back to how it was in the very beginning. So, after taking this incredible tour through the 5 lives of our brain, what's the big takeaway? I mean, why does any of this actually matter in your day-to-day life?
Well, the implications are absolutely massive. For one, your identity isn't some fixed, solid thing. It's a direct product of your brain's wiring at this exact moment. And memory? It's not a dusty old recording. It's the actual engine that lets you think abstractly. Crucially, those big transition ages, those can be vulnerability windows where we're more at risk for mental health struggles as the brain rewires itself. And maybe biggest of all, your actual experience of being conscious changes, from being soaked in the sensory world to living in your head and then back again.
This quote from the study just nails it. It basically says our ability to think big, complex thoughts depends entirely on the physical structure of our brain, how it weaves together memories from all over the place. And as that physical structure changes, so does the very nature of who we are. So that leaves us with one last big question. You've just seen the roadmap for your own mind's journey across a lifetime. So knowing the terrain, knowing what's coming, how are you going to navigate the area you're in right now and the one that's just around the corner?